Hi, this is Matt with AppliancePartsPros.com. Today we'll be showing you how to repair your appliance. Remember, anytime you work on an appliance, make sure it's unplugged or the circuit breakers are off so there's no chance of electrocution. Also make sure you turn off your hot and cold water supplies. In this video we're going to show you how to change out the basket drive. It's going to be a very easy repair and should only take a few minutes to show you how to do it. If you already have one of these, great. If not, you can click on the link below or get it at AppliancePartsPros.com. When you open up the box, you're going to get the basket drive assembly with the brakes already on it. You're going to get the clutch lining and a set of springs that are going to be determined by your model as to which ones you're going to use. One of the main reasons you'd want to change this out is if the bearings in the top and the bottom of the spin tube have gone bad and they're screeching. The transmission shaft goes through the whole length of this, and as it spins, if the bearings start to go bad, they'll start to screech. You can't change them or oil them, so you got to change the whole spin tube. Other people may change it because their brakes are worn out and they don't want to have to mess with disassembling the whole thing. They'll just comes pre-assembled and they can put it in. The first thing we have to do is to remove the control panel. It's usually held in place by two screws. They're located in either the front or the rear of the control panel. Some models have trim covers that you have to lift off to gain access to the screws, and on other models they have spring clips that you have to slip a putty knife underneath to release them. Once you have your screws out, slide the control panel forward about 1/2 inch and lift it back over the back of the machine. With the console out of the way, we have to go ahead and disconnect the lid switch and remove the two retaining spring clips that hold the body to the frame. With a flathead screwdriver, just pry them out. Next, we have to go ahead and remove the body from the frame of the washer. So we have to lift up on the lid and grab the body right here. Put your foot against the body of the machine. Tilt the body back to about 45 degrees and carefully lift it off the washer. Now that you have the cabinet off the washer, you have access to the inside of the machine to change out the part. First thing we have to do is take the hose off. So go ahead and grab your pliers. Slide the clamp back a little bit, pull the hose off. To remove the vacuum brake from the frame, you'll notice that the openings are tapered a little bit to the outside. So just grab the lower portion, flex it out, lift it up, and then pull it down so the upper tabs release. To remove the agitator, we have to first remove the fabric dispenser. Our type just pulls right out. You may have the type that has the lift ring that you have to lift off and then pull it off, and it may have a cap underneath that you have to pry off with a flathead screwdriver. So once you get the fabric dispenser and cap off, we can reach down inside, pull out the dust cap if you have one. Now we have access to the inside of the agitator. We can grab our 7/16 inch socket with a long extension and remove the bolt. If it gets stuck and the lower agitator starts to spin while you're turning the bolt, just reach down inside and hold it so it doesn't move. Once you feel the bolt is free of the threads, you can go ahead and lift it out of the tub. Some models, once you take the agitator off, have the little retaining clip and a plastic piece down in here. So just grab your pliers and pull that off, and then lift the plastic piece off. Now that we have access to the spanner nut, we can go ahead and put our spanner wrench on it, tap it off. We can go ahead and remove the tub cover. It's held in by little locking tabs around the outer circumference of the tub. To release these locking tabs, don't just pull up on them. Otherwise you may damage the tabs. So put your hand above each one, press down on it, and then release it. There's 8 locking tabs that go around the whole tub cover, so make sure you get them all off before you lift it off. So once you make sure you have them all released, we can go ahead and lift the cover off. Now that we have the tub cover off, we can go ahead and lift the inner basket out. With the inner tub removed from the washer, we can tap up the drive block off the shaft. Now that we have the cabinet off the machine and the inner tub out, we can lay it on its back so we can access the underside of the machine to change out the part. We're going to put a towel on the floor to protect it. With the cabinet off, it's a little tricky to lay the machine down, so if you need to, make sure you get somebody to help you. We're going to put a towel on the floor to protect it when we pull the gear case assembly out. It may have some grease on it. First thing we're going to do is remove the clips that hold the pump in place. Pry them off with your flathead screwdriver. Once you have the clip off, turn it 90 degrees and pull it out of the motor. And go ahead and do the one on the top. Once you have the clips off, lift the pump up and swing it out of the way. Then remove the wiring harness from the motor. Lift up on the locking tab with your screwdriver and wiggle it off and lay it out of the way. So you take your flathead screwdriver, pry this little clamp out, and get the wires out of there. Now that we have the pump and the motor wiring harness disconnected, we can take out the 3 bolts that hold the gear case in. It's a 1/2 inch socket with an extension. Let's go ahead and take them out. Now that we have everything disconnected, we can pull the motor and gear case assembly out. Get somebody to help you if you need to. It's kind of heavy. Next, we have to remove the basket drive. So grab onto the cam driver and spin it counterclockwise as you pull it out. This will release the tension on the brakes and allow it to come out a little easier. Here's the new basket drive next to the old basket drive. The basket drive comes with 3 brake shoe springs, 1 already installed and 2 others. You can look at the instruction sheet to see which one you need. In most cases they're color coded and you can visually see which one it is. The basket drive also comes with a new clutch lining and springs. Same thing, different weights and color coded, and you can refer to the instructions for which one you need. If you have to change the brake shoe spring, grab it with your channel locks and compress it so you can get it out. Once you have it out, swap out the plastic piece. Put the end caps back on. And put it back onto the brake drive. In order to change out the clutch lining, we have to grab our channel locks and compress this clutch lining spring in order to lift it out of the clutch housing and up over the gear case shaft. Same thing on the clutch lining. Match up the color of the springs or look at the instructions. The old one's blue, so we'll put the blue on the new one. Just spread this apart a little bit. Pull the spring out to get the caps off. Put the caps on the new spring. Put it onto the new lining. And compress it and put it back over the shaft. Make sure that when you put it back in that these little 2 tabs go down and the flat side goes up. Once you have the spring compressed, you can lower the lining back into the clutch housing. Before you put the new basket drive back in, make sure you clean this area out, get rid of all the old brake shoe residue, and make sure it's nice and clean for the new basket drive. Once you got it cleaned up, just push it in. And it's probably going to stop right here. You need to hold on to it and turn the cam, and that's going to compress the brakes so it'll fit into the housing. So spin and push. Before we put the transmission assembly back in, we have to make sure that the clutch spring and the cam driver are not in the same position. So put the cam driver at 6 o'clock and the clutch spring is at 12 o'clock. If you have these lined up at the same position, when you slide the gear case back in, it won't seat all the way. Now that we have the basket drive back in, we can slide the gear case shaft back up into it. When you're pushing the gear case in, it rests on these 3 studs that have the little edge cut off. So when you push it on, it'll hold it in place until you put the bolts in. Now that we have the gear case in, we can replace the 1/2-inch bolts that hold it in place and tighten them down. Now we can swing the pump back over and put it under the motor. Make sure that you look at the flats on the pump and the flats on the motor shaft. If they've moved, line them back up so the pump will slide on nice and easy. Insert the clips into the motor, turn them 90 degrees, and snap it over the pump. Next, we can reroute the wiring harness through the wire harness clip. So get the wires in there and press it together to lock it. Then we have to reconnect the wiring harness to the motor. Just push it into place. Make sure it locks down. It's not going to come off. Now that we're done with the repair, we can tilt the machine back up on its feet and put it back together. Remember, the machine's kind of heavy, so if you need to, get somebody to help you. We can go ahead and reinstall the drive block. Make sure that these 2 little notches line up with the notches in the shaft. Make sure when you set it down that it goes all the way down. We can go ahead and lower the inner tub down onto it. Now we can put the drive block nut back on. Go ahead and spin it down and grab your spanner wrench and give it a few whacks with the hammer to tighten it down. Make sure you don't hit the porcelain tub with your hammer, otherwise you'll put a big chip in it. Reinstall the 2 small pieces that we took off earlier. This stud goes down into the drive block space. And this clip just slides down over the shaft. We're going to reinstall the tub cover. This section right here goes towards the back where the vacuum brake goes. So you want to line up the tabs, press them down, and make sure they go over the locking tabs. To reinstall the vacuum brake, hook the upper mounts into the frame and then snap it down into place and then push the bottom in so it locks. Once you have it in place, we can go ahead and hook our hose back up and move the clamp back up to where it sits on the fitting. Reinstall the agitator assembly and put the fabric dispenser back on in the cap. So go ahead and lower it down into the shaft and grab your bolt with your 7/16 socket with a long extension. Guide it down into the hole and tighten the bolt down. As you're tightening down, if it starts to spin, make sure you grab the lower section and hold it in place. Reinstall your dust cap if you had one. Reinstall the liquid fabric dispenser or cap. Now that we're finished with the repair, we can go ahead and put the cabinet back on the machine. To put the cabinet back on the machine, we do it the same way we took it off. Grab the cabinet, tilt it to a 45-degree angle, and swing it back onto the washing machine. When you're sliding the body back onto the frame, make sure you get the lower lip underneath the frame and then lower it down onto the 4 locking tabs. So just go ahead and hook the clips onto the back panel and with your flathead screwdriver, push them down into place. Reconnect the lid switch. To close up the console, all you do is rotate it forward over the front of the machine. Make sure the locking tabs lock in place. Pull it back about a 1/2 inch and replace the screws. Now that you have the machine reassembled, you can go ahead and plug it back in, turn the water back on, and take it for a test spin. Thanks for joining us for another successful repair brought to you by AppliancePartsPros.com. Check out our other repair videos on our site, Facebook, and YouTube.